Good evening, meat suits. Welcome back to Read It and Weep, a podcast about movies and friendship. Before I go any further, I just want to quickly play a power card that suspends one rule, and that rule is that power cards exist. No more power cards ever again. Anyway, this is season 5, Kevin Bacon's Exquisite Corpse, and we are just four guys on our own journeys, kind of unrelated. A few interesting crossovers, but mostly unrelated, except this one stoplight we all happen to be at within minutes of each other right now.
The whole thing takes place in a real tight area, but the movie is long enough that he had to cut out the part that explains that.
Yes. Yeah, the part where we all care as deeply about the valley as P.T. Anderson does. We missed that part. Other than that, it's pretty obvious what we have in common. We're just around. We're just some people who are around. And bad fathers, I guess, is also important. Anyway, we are also playing a year-long movie-watching game, and that year is rapidly deteriorating. It is aging. 2022 is aging like milk at this point. Almost ready to toss it out. We have between 1 and 3 remaining episodes of this show, depending on how we figure it out, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. I am your host of this podcast. I'm Alex Falcone. I'm recording, as you can tell, in beautiful Austin, Texas. This is the view of Austin. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/Alex Falcone. This is the view of Austin you're used to getting. I'm keeping it weird in this hotel room. It's pretty weird. Anyway, that's me.
There's like a South by Southwest merch booth, like over just to your left. You can't see it, but it's there.
Yeah, also, I have two. You can see on the thing, I'm in a hotel room that has 2 twin beds, and for some reason, I'm not quite sure why, Joe Rogan owns one of them. I don't know how that happens.
Why?
Joe,
you know
Rogan
which
took over
one is
of my beds.
Joe's? You know which one is Joe's?
It's
or no?
one that when you open it, there's a saltwater chamber inside of it, so that he can sleep in it. Like that's
right.
All of his beds pull double duty, right?
It's gotta have the salt water.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you to the panel. First up, he's at Anthony Lopez, part 2 on Twitter. He's in Southeast Portland, and he will drop kick these fucking dogs if they come anywhere near him. It's Anthony Lopez.
Look, Alex, I know this sounds silly, but you know, like that part in podcasts when like the host introduces the people he has on it. Well, that is what's happening right now. That is this part of this podcast, and I think that scene is in podcast because it's real,
real.
True.
Yeah.
Right now, we're in that scene of the podcast when you introduce.
This is one of those scenes in a podcast I wouldn't believe if it was in a podcast, but I know that it's happening in this podcast.
I hate this trope so much. I loved so much this movie. I hate that trope. Yep. I hate when it happened in Lord of the Rings. I hate that trope.
Yep, this has definitely come up on the show before. This is one of the things that annoys me the most in a movie is when the characters in a movie say that they're not in a movie. Like, if you want me to stop suspending my disbelief, tell me something that is the most perfect bald-faced lie that no one could credibly believe. I'm going to have trouble suspending.
I agree with you most of the time. I think this movie's the exception because I think that there's a reading of this movie when like several characters are aware that they are in a movie or like not really characters in this movie. They're more of like forces of nature, right? And like Philip Seymour Hoffman, Dixon the Kid, the TV producer character. There's like layers of characters. There's like characters in this movie, and then there are like people who are more like forces of nature's idea kind of things that are there to necessitate the plot. Like it's very purposeful that at that point in the movie. I had not
thought about
the
that.
Thing that makes
That's super
this movie
interesting.
happen.
I do want to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
But I want to hear more about that. That's interesting. But not right now, because right now I'm so annoyed. So we'll come back to that when I'm not annoyed at him for doing it. And then you can explain it to me. Let me round out this panel. First, next up, he's a co-host of the Old Gamers Almanac, the podcast about old video games. He's from the woods of Brooklyn, and he has a lot of love to give. He just doesn't know where to put it. It's Hunter Donaldson.
No, I want to be. This is why. Hey, Alex, you need to be nice to me. You need to be nice to me. That's what I'm gonna say.
Go to bed.
I'm saying
Back
it
to
to all.
bed.
Actually,
Yeah.
all three of my dads
Yeah.
today. I'll say
You need to be
nice to me.
Go
You
back
need
to
be nice
bed,
to me.
Hunter.
I want to be. If I'm a character in this movie, I want to be the piss boy. Okay, that's who I am.
Stanley.
It's unfair. It's unfair.
Stanley's a
because
good name.
For a
yes,
piss
I
boy?
think if you're gonna look,
Yeah.
you're gonna breed a quiz answering kid, definitely give them an old person's name because I think that's
Yeah.
gonna help you a whole lot. So
And
get
let's
in there.
be
Yeah, and it
honest. We can
Works
all
with Skinny and
agree.
Donnie.
We can all agree. If any of us want to be anyone in this movie, we all want to be Luis Gomez as Luis Gomez.
Luis Guzman, yes,
Guzman.
Luis
I
Guzman
know a
is
lot about
fantastic.
sports
Luis-
and milk. Luis
But
Guzman.
I love that he is credited as Luis Guzman
Yes,
Luis
that's
Guzman.
funny.
He's playing
And
himself. Yeah, it's funny.
We got to see him at least the second time this year because we saw him in Out of Sight.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the problem with that, it was out of mind.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Anyway, last up in Northern California. Now that he's met you, it's totally fine if you never see each other ever again. It's Ezra Fox.
Get out. Just get out. 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 Also,
That's one of
excuse
those
me while I-
scenes where if you play the show too loud and you live in an apartment complex, it is very similar to if you just lived in her apartment complex.
you
Yeah.
might also get to meet John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
I was in LA when I was watching this. There was always a chance that I would get classic LAPD Officer Magoo. Just what the LAPD is known for is just friendly but a little dumb LAPD officers who are constantly interviewing themselves in their squad cars. All right, so in a second, we're going to talk about Magnolia, including such great questions as, are game shows designed to humiliate children good TV? How much cocaine is too much cocaine? And I'm going to tell you the story of the time I threw up in the same bar as William H. Macy. But first, I want to start the show by thanking all of our fabulous meat buddies. And I just want to let you guys know, because at the end of the year, I just want to let you know that if you donate to Read It and Weep, that donation is 0% tax deductible. So if you're getting to your year-end taxes and you need to have less money that is not a tax deduction, you can do that by going to Metreon.com. This is all I'm assuming. I've not actually checked. I don't know what the rules
I would
are.
say also, though, it could be a business expense. It could be maybe a write-off
True.
if you're in the business of wasting your money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or if you have a business where it's legitimate that you need to hear the donut news. You know, it's like, business people
Right.
subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. Like if you are in a
We are now
Yeah.
trade magazine guys.
Yeah.
magazine,
You're a
if you're in the
donut
donut world,
trader.
if you're
You could
if you're a tabletop here's another one. If you are a tabletop game podcast maker, so Hunter, if you wanted to donate to the show, you could write this off as a legitimate research into your own social media presence.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I've been writing off a bunch of stuff in y'all's names for years now.
Good,
Since I've been on
good.
the show,
Good.
And
Also, this is not tax advice. I feel like unless you have to support bad tax advice podcasts as well, in which case it is. So
Yo,
and I mean,
I like
look,
that's my sign off lately. I've been signing off saying this is tax advice, and then I sign off.
We are tax experts.
Well,
This
look.
advice is legally binding.
oh my god, wait! You
This
could do like an email signature that also just like instead of just that this is if you didn't get it if this wasn't intended for you, it's okay. It's yours now. This is your email.
guys, I'm
This
really
is
not
the funny thing.
comfortable. Like,
Sorry, Anthony.
I'm
I
not
just wanna-
comfortable making
wanna-
jokes like
Sure.
this. I think because we need to remember taxation is theft. We're a solvent citizen
Sure.
podcast. We don't pay taxes here. Neither
Oh,
should
no.
you.
Oh,
What are they
gonna
going to
do?
do? The IRS
Something in
can't
your
arrest
country
all
of
of us.
Freelandia.
Yes, they absolutely can.
If you have a podcast called Taxation is Theft, then now this is officially a write-off as well. But the most important thing is that we go back for 1 second to Ezra's thing about when there's an email signature that's like, hey, if this is not meant for you, burn it. I don't, if it's not intended for me, I just enjoy it anyway. So you're not getting it back.
Yeah,
Hey,
I've always thought
absolutely,
they were
it's fine.
ironic about that. I think that's how I start like chain emails. I just send that out to 7 more people whenever I see that,
Right. Mm-hmm.
If this is not intended for you, that will cause you 7 years of bad luck.
Have you
Yeah.
have you guys ever gotten emails that were not intended for you? Like actually, like personal emails, not just spam stuff. Like any real stuff. Have you ever gotten those?
No,
There
I've never
is.
experienced that.
I will say this is I believe not spam. There is a person with a similar last name to mine who does
Mhm.
business in air compressors in India, because I receive, like, it doesn't seem like spam. They are like trade newsletters about air compressors, and I receive questions about invoices about air compressors all the time. I am just in the Indian air compressor business. I'm huge. I'm ignoring so many sales requests.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you should just get into that business now that you kind of have a
No,
back
wait,
door
Right.
into it.
You have a customer portfolio
Or-
just ready to go.
Let's face it,
Or
Alex, you'll make a
find-
lot more money doing that than whatever it is you are doing. You
That's
know?
true.
You should find the other Alex Falcone or whoever is they're confusing you for. Find their biggest competitor and be like,
Oh
I
my
have
God.
a bunch of inside information.
Yes.
I am being
We'll
sent.
sell you
This
so
is
like
such
data.
a
accident.
cool way in.
Yeah.
This is a very good idea.
Yeah.
I like this a lot.
I got
Let's do.
emails from the other Ezra Fox. A couple
I was
times. I got
gonna,
a couple other
sorry,
Ezra Fox.
this was a
bound
setup for you to
emails.
answer your own question.
No, I
You
was curious what happened. But yes, nothing interesting.
Yeah.
But yes, there's another Ezra Fox out there, and also they get email. I have their emails. Other Ezra Fox. I still don't know what your email address is. I just know it's not mine. So if you ever
can't
let
forward
me
it
know,
along.
yeah, I
Also,
can't.
other Ezra Fox can write off any donations to this show as a business expense because he needs to keep up with what his doppelganger is doing.
Oh, that's good.
You
I
know,
think.
I got the most bizarre. This is kind of random, but last week I had this weirdo texting me about how he was really excited to go to this party this weekend, and he was going to bring a bunch of beers and a blow up doll. I don't know why,
Ooh.
but he just kept sending me these text messages, and they kept getting weirder and sadder, and being like, "Look, I just haven't hanging out. I want to see you guys. I'm so excited for this party. I've been really lonely recently. I haven't had a chance to hang out with you guys. I'm sorry. Last time I made a scene, and it just kept getting
It's
weirder.
weird
And
the doll and beers guy made a scene. What a shock.
Yeah. And then he sent me another text this week being like, okay, I decided against the blow doll. I am bringing all the Michelin beers though. And I was like, dude, I don't know who you're texting, but you got the wrong number. Best of luck at that party. And then I swear to God, every day for the last week, this guy has tried to call me.
No.
And he keeps just
Whoa.
saying, dude, I just need to check in with you. That's what he says after every time he calls me. He sends me a text. I just need to check in. And I'm like, did you send me some kind of like, is the blow up doll a coded message? Did I
Right.
like intercept something I wasn't supposed to
Yeah,
intercept?
we got.
Why do you need
I got chicken.
to
Anthony, are you
talk to
cool?
me
Are you
now?
cool, man? I need to know.
Yeah.
I need a weak
Yeah, like,
link.
it was
Every
a wrong
text
number.
message he sends, he should say, if this is not the intended text recipient, you're not allowed to use this against me in a court of law. I called dibs.
But yeah, I just don't know why this guy keeps calling me. Like,
Oh,
it was a
that's
mistake. You don't need to follow up at all. Just find whoever right number you're trying to reach.
All right, we have to keep moving. We
Very
got a couple
bizarre.
of things we got to do. I do want to do a quick check-in for all the people in the donut industry. Can we do, in our brief news segment, Ezra, can we get a quick update on the donut news?
Eat Santa's belly. It's still happening.
Still Santa
So,
time.
yeah, and also though, great thing. It looks like Santa also has like some Santa themed mitts just in this shot. I guess maybe this is Mrs. Claus. I'm not sure. It looks like it says, but like it's like basically they're fur line red mittens that are fur lined. I think it's a really nice Santa based oven mitt look. But yeah, no, donuts are cookies. Cookies are donuts. I
Classic.
don't know. They're giving away money for free in their gift cards. You know, I think really this seems like late stage capitalism is what I'm getting here.
Money for nothing and Santa's
everything.
mitts for free.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one other little bit of news I just want to share, because last week I talked about my video that I put a lot of work into not doing as well as I'd hoped. Or was that 2 weeks ago? Anyway,
That was last week.
update, rolled out a new version, the Snyder cut of that video, as Robin called it, and did much better. So I'm happy again.
Oh, nice.
I solved the problem. It didn't blow up on YouTube, but it has done 500,000 on TikTok. So I feel like it was all worth it. I did change the title, Hunter, so it was less self-referential.
What's the new title? What's the new title?
Oh, I don't actually remember.
on
Oh,
YouTube?
it's called I Have a Serious Problem.
That's so good. Oh, I love that.
I really like it because the video is about like I lost my keys and so I have to check all of my secret hiding places. And so, the title is a fun little double. It's a little double meaning because it's like I say I have a serious problem, but it's not the keys. The problem is everything else I've done in the video. I clearly am sick.
Yeah.
So it's got a little double meaning there for everybody at home. But that is done pretty well, and I'm pleased with it. And I sold some wall safes. My greatest invention that I have ever had. That will be the thing that I pitch on Shark Tank one day. My invention for a wall safe for people who can't poke holes in their walls. It's just a sticker that looks like a wall safe, and it's great.
Heck yeah.
That's the news.
I mean, if anything, this movie, you should do one of those, but for floors. Because floor safes, this movie got me thinking, why don't we see more floor safes? Floor safes are cool. A safe in the floor. You can hide it under boxes. No one would ever think to check under a pile of old boxes.
It's a great idea. My favorite part of that
paintings.
scene, though, is that he always has to like put the money. He has to take the money away from the very far sides of the safe because the middle of the safe is taken up by a whole movie camera.
Yeah.
Ooh. Also, I like this whole line of safes. You could do the unsafe, where it's just like super precarious. Like it's just sort of like it looks like it's about to fall and hit someone at any moment.
What about a safe that looks like it's been blowed up, but actually it is working fine? So it looks like you can get in there easy.
Yeah. It's like oh no, they already got here kind of safe.
Right. A trick safe where it's actually completely open, but then there's a secret compartment inside the blown out safe, which is actually where you keep the stuff.
That's a good
Or
idea.
like a safe that is like has like an empire next to it, and then he tells you if it's safe or not every time. You know, like a baseball diamond.
Okay, we do a safety safe.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. Oh yeah, safe.
Right. It's called Safer Out. Yeah, I get it. Took me a second. All right, we should move on. We've spent enough time on the less important things in our lives, but the most important thing going on right now is, of course, the 1999 film Magnolia. So let's get into that. It's time for segment 2 of the game. This week, we talked about Magnolia, the large genus of about 210 to 340 flowering plant species in the subfamily Magnoliidae, and the family Magnoliaceae is named after French botanist Pierre Magnol. And then that is what caused the street to be named that, and then that caused the movie to be named that, the 1999 American drama film Magnolia, written and directed by Paul Thomas P.T. Cruiser Anderson, starring Tom Cruise, the cruise missile, Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H. Macy. We got a lot of middle names. John C. Reilly. Also Alfred Molina, Julianne Moore.
Paul F. Tompkins was in it also.
Yeah.
Where was Paul F. Tompkins?
Yeah, he got cut out.
He's a voice.
He's on the phone. He's one of the guys they talk to. Philip Seymour Hoffman talks to you on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
but
a fun
he
little
had like a
thing.
scene. He had like a scene and he got cut out. He did some stand up about it. It was pretty funny.
His
That is
bit
funny.
about this movie and working on it is incredible.
Oh, okay. I need to find that. I have not heard that. That's really fun. I like both those things. And it also, of course, is starring Michael Murphy, who we may remember from last week's episode about Batman Returns. So this is more of Michael Murphy Returns. And then it's also got one of the greatest card magicians of all time, Ricky Jay. The late Ricky Jay is in it, both as the narrator and a producer role. Not producing the film, but a producer in the film. Which I don't know why that guy gets to be the narrator of the opening. Like, just guy who works on
obviously
this.
he was the one who was producing the movie. Turns out we didn't know.
Oh, this is a production of itself.
Yes, that's
Well,
the
I mean,
twist.
like he's one of those like weird characters I referenced earlier, right? Like he has like the Mason ring that they make like a big. They don't like make a big deal out of it, but he's wearing like a Freemason's ring. One of the first lines he has is like, I met you on the square, but I met you on the ground, but we put it on the square, which is like a Freemason.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
slogan.
I didn't know any of
He's
this.
like aware that the guy has cancer, even though he hasn't like told him he has cancer. Like he's another one of these like. There's like weird characters in this movie that like exist almost like outside of the plot and like know things that they shouldn't. Like him and Dixon a really good example of that in this film.
Well,
Um,
I
but
don't
yeah,
have this
he's
kind of
obviously,
information,
like,
but the
kinda
other
weird.
he also has a small guest appearance where his book is on the table of books that the Donnie is reading, or not Donnie, Stanley is reading about freak children.
Yeah.
Is Ricky Jay's book, "Learned Pigs and Fireproof Women," which is about
Wow.
like circus freak shows and stuff. So he
That's a
managed to appear
title.
as the
That's a title
narrator,
right
as
there.
that character, and as his book. Yeah, Learned Pigs and Fireproof Women, which I have and is very good.
I don't think he
enjoy
played
a
his book. I actually think they had the book play itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got a
that's
stunt book.
Luis Guzman as the book. So this was picked by me. I used a power card to jump the line, and then enacted the part 1 of 2 of the super deal that I struck with Hunter to help him win the game. In exchange, I get to watch 2 of my favorite movies. This, and then next week, if all goes well, still The Prestige. Anthony was mad, but he was madder that we had to spend as much time talking about rules as we did. And he was also, it sounds like, kind of interested in watching these movies. So he decided to let it continue. And if you remember the tape, he said we were going to cut off at the part where I had played 1 power card and he still had his 2 left to cause trouble. But he forgot that meant I still had a power card left to stop all power cards. Haha. We'll come back to that. In the meantime,
That's not what happened. But
in the
anyway.
meantime,
Yeah, that isn't
Yeah,
actually.
not.
That is
Yeah.
not what happened. You're
Wait, what?
engaging in some propaganda right now. But let's
wait, what are
save
you
that.
talking
Let's
about?
save that.
Which part? Which part?
We all noticed it. No, listen, all 3
We'll
of us
get back-
noticed
we'll
it.
get-
We'll get back to it. We'll get back
Yeah,
to it.
we'll talk
get
about
back
the
to it.
movie. Not about
Let's talk
you
about
being
the
a
movie.
liar.
Well, I'm fascinated to hear what part you're talking about, because this was not a game. This was me actually writing down what was said when I was editing it, and then doing that. So that'll be interesting. Anyway, in the short term, let's talk about this movie. Okay, so let me give you my patented 5-point micro summary of 1999's Magnolia in case you haven't seen it. First, I need you to imagine a world where the only music that exists is by Amy Mann, and even men
Nice.
listen to this music in this world. It's just all Amy Mann and briefly Carmen. That's the whole thing. That was the point where my wife was like, I don't buy this anymore. Like, the frogs didn't buy it. She didn't bother her when they fell from the
Wait, there's
sky.
one other song though. There's one other song that's always playing in William H. Macy's car,
Yeah,
which is like
don't
Gabrielle
forget,
Dreams.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it was it's Supertramp. Supertramp is
Oh
constantly.
yeah,
playing in the
Supertramp
car.
is in
Oh,
the
that's
movie.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But the part that my wife
Supertramp's got
didn't
some
find
great
plausible was this many men knowing lyrics to Amy Mann songs, which is very funny.
I knew a lot of Amy Mann after this movie came out, man. This is
All the lyrics to these songs and nothing else. Also, okay, so now that you're in that world. Put yourself in that world. That's weird. And then also in this world, there's a couple of stories, and I'm just going to give you some brief overviews of the different stories. So there's an old TV producer who's dying of cancer, and his wife is very sad because she was originally married to him for the money, but accidentally decided she likes him. Now he's on his deathbed, and his dying wish is to reunite with his son, incel Tom Cruise, who teaches a seminar on how to manipulate women. Across town, there's a game show where a team of kids play against a team of adults, and the host is also dying of cancer, played by Luis Guzman, and he's estranged from his child. And this time, it's a little different from the other story where the guy's dying of cancer and he works in television and he's estranged from his child, because this one assaulted his child when she was a child, and now she's addicted to cocaine and going on dates with LAPD officer Magoo. Story number 3, there's a former champion of that show is now a goofy grown-up adult who's in love with a bartender who doesn't love him back, and so he robs an electronic store and then feels bad about it and then unrobs that store. And at this point, with those stories swirling around, post-traumatic Anderson disorder has written himself so far into a corner that the only possible way to end the film is by embracing the unsatisfyingness of these things coming together, and it just rains frogs, and then Amy Mann music swells, and then a golden retriever dies, and that's the movie.
I looked up for this term, which I'm coining now, Rana ex machina. So this is
Does that mean frogs in Latin?
yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, the frogs rain down from the sky, and then this thing that didn't happen, they zoom in on the text, but it did happen, which you can't fool me, Paul. I know this didn't happen.
It has happened. The
Raining
frog thing.
frogs? I mean, a little bit. It's like 3 frogs fell out of a tree, and then like the story got exaggerated over many, many thousands of years, and now everyone's like, everyone believes that it rained frogs.
I mean, This happens every like few like frogs get caught up in like big storms and get carried long ways and get dropped on places. Like
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like this do happen.
yeah.
But
Between
also
6 and a
like
dozen frogs sometimes get taken up by a tornado. That cow
I'm
goes
now
by
gonna
in the
have to
background.
find how many frogs these are.
and I mean I think like kind of getting lost in the frogs is a weird way to sort of view this movie and where a lot of people kind of get hung up. But like I don't know, like this is like a movie that like one of my favorite sequences is when like one of my favorite things a movie can like this can do is like have like a short metaphor for the movie and the way the audience is going to view it in the movie itself. So like Dixon, who I keep referencing, who's like this kid that's kind of pops up throughout the movie, there's like a scene where he does this rap to John C. Riley's character, and the rap is, if you listen to it, it is essentially this entire movie. It is this entire movie. It's every character explained really fast. And John C. Riley looks at him and goes, I don't know what the hell you're talking about,
Yeah.
but whatever. Stay in school. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like that is like John
Specifically,
like,
he
Paul
says,
Thomas
"Be
Anderson.
cool, stay in school."
Stay in
Yes.
Stay
and
in
it is
school.
like it is how most people watch this movie and they come out like John C. Riley. Like they're not like listening to the kid trying to figure out what he's saying, right? They just sort of like, oh, that was weird, whatever.
To be clear,
I think
Anthony,
that's a
what
very
I'm saying is not that was weird, whatever. What I'm saying is that was weird. I love this movie more than almost any other movie, and I've seen it 1,000 times. This is like seriously one of my favorite movies, or it has been for a long time. It's been a while since I've seen it, so it's an interesting check-in. But I have this probably as many as any other movie I've seen. I've watched this movie that many times, which is crazy because I like literal things and things that make sense and things that connect and story arcs and most importantly, movies that are around 2 hours. And yet,
Yeah.
this movie is
This
so
one's long.
good that it's got so much good acting and writing that I lose those other parts and I don't mind them.
Yeah.
But
I'm always
Yeah.
surprised. I haven't seen this in a long time, but I'm surprised how quickly the 3 hours go
yeah,
in this movie. Like it's
I-
so
Well, yeah,
propulsive.
There's like a middle hour where in every scene the action is just rising.
Well,
Like
well,
there's
yeah.
like this
Yeah,
like
that's true.
tension, like almost roller coaster part where it's just like we're going up, we're going up, we're going up, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden every storyline is climaxing at the same time. It's so crazy.
it really feels
Yeah.
like this is like 3 episodes or a full season of a TV show. This feels like an HBO show.
That's what I was wondering. So did everyone watch it in one go? Because I did not.
Yes, I watched it in one go. Yeah.
We were not going to because it was so long, and then we were like, I guess at this point we're closer to the end than the beginning, and it just kind of happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I watched this as a half-hour show basically over the course of the week.
I bet it still works
That's
that
cool.
way.
No,
Yeah,
it really
I bet
does.
it
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I think I had a 2-part finale, maybe, or a double long episode of the last hour or so. But yeah, no, I thought it was really cool because like it's just like this is kind of more of a. I was really like kind of gnawing on this movie for a week or so, and just like taking the pieces in, and I proved to myself that I can really accomplish anything if I chunk it out into small pieces. It's really a good lift for Ezra. Don't have to do it all in one go.
Good for you, man. It's a good way
Yeah.
to look at the world. And I do think this
And
feels
I
like
mean-
an HBO show, so it makes sense that way.
This movie is
Yeah.
also like so dense with stuff that I think like it absolutely rewards rewatching, but also I think
Yes.
like if you do watch it in like half-hour chunks, I think that would be interesting because there is so much detail in the background of stuff and the way things like thread through like you were saying, Tom Cruise's performance. I think this is one of his best performances he's ever given. I think he's fucking
Incredible.
phenomenal in this
Yes,
movie,
yes,
and he like
yes.
is certainly a character that is more relevant today than
He's one
it
of the two
was
things
even
that
in
have changed a
1999,
lot on
which is so
this
amazing.
viewing because of the
Yeah.
violence committed by people like that character, and it's made it like what used to be just like amusing, and now is like it's much more sinister. I think in this watch,
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
but still an incredible
I think
performance.
One of the things about his performance in this movie and kind of taking it in smaller chunks, if you do that, is like stuff I had never noticed, but like I kept thinking a lot about this movie about all the dog imagery involved in him, right? There's obviously like his dying dad has a bunch of dogs. There's a dog who
He
dies
hates
at
them.
the end, literally. But he
There's a
hates
dog
the
who
dogs,
dies,
but
and
he's
they
also
give
his
him
whole
a white sheet and a gurney, and the people from hospice roll out this golden retriever along
they're
with
very
the
respectful.
dad.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's called
gnarly.
being rich. What do you think happens when one of the Queen's corgis dies? The same exact thing. It sits in the middle of the town square for 7 days.
It lies
But
in
you have like
state.
Tom Cruise's, Tom Cruise is like his whole artwork is him as a dog, right? He like pants when he's
Right, he
doing that
does.
interview. He's like he has all this like dog imagery, but then at the end when he's like, I fucking hate those dogs, right? It is like this very subtle thing. But like it's something I never picked up on is the way like so much of his is like a facade and someone who's refusing to look at who they actually are, refusing to look in a mirror, right? Is like projecting an image, but like that's not who he is or who he like can be. And that's like a big part of this movie. Is like
So I want to try something
obviously,
slightly different
as the book
today
says.
as we go into the rest of this review or this discussion of the movie, which is I want to test run this thing that I've been developing, which is the Alex Falcone patented 4-step review process. And so just to separate some things out, I want to talk like we're going to focus on because we're gonna go for things that are good, things that are bad, and then we have a couple more stages after that. But let's like keep focusing on things that are really good about this. And the thing that you were just describing is one of the things that is so just mind-blowing about this movie to me is how, like, despite the fact that it's very long, how incredibly dense everything is. How many small interactions that feel perfect. And one of those is with so Tom Cruise he's the incel speaker, and he's got a couple of assistants, and he has a woman who's an assistant who seems very together, and then he has 2 guy assistants who actually go to the events with him who are like drank the Kool-Aid and are like we see them briefly talking about how good they are at the skill set, and there's a brief interaction on the phone where the woman assistant is like, shut the fuck up, I don't care about what you're saying, you're so stupid. Like her
Be
just
a good boy.
Yeah, be a good boy. Yes, more dogs.
Again,
Oh, you're
dog.
so right.
Yeah.
So right.
It's so good.
The density of
Especially
that
'cause that scene,
micro moment.
Yeah, that scene opens with him bragging to like 2 customers about
Yes.
how like you got to try this on feminist, man. That's what I'm so great. I fucking dominate women. And then he immediately gets a phone call from this woman who chews him out.
A coworker who
walks
treats him
a
like
dog,
absolute dog shit.
literally
Right.
upstairs. Yeah, it is so funny.
Oh, that's so funny.
And it's this movie is so rich with stuff like
it's so rich in these dense things. Another one that I was thinking of was there's a scene where Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is also really good in this movie, as he always was, but he needs to get a porn magazine so that he can find the phone number for this incel hotline, and he calls like a phone version of DoorDash from back in the day, and he orders peanut butter and a loaf of bread and some milk and then the porn magazine, and then the operator is like, do you still want the bread and the peanut butter? It's so funny and it's so perfect, and it's such like a realist, it's such a really just a delightful, interesting moment when you did not need to have one.
Yeah, that is such a great, well realized moment, because that is like what that person's job is
Every
all
day.
day. Of people going, no, never mind on the peanut butter. Yeah, it's just it's such a good little joke.
I love it, and I the thing you mentioned earlier with Luis Guzman, where he's like they're walking into the game show and he's explaining to the other team that he is the perfect person to call on if you need any questions about sports or milk. And then he's listing things you make with milk, like butter, cheese, goat milk. It's just well realized is the perfect phrase. Like so much stuff is well realized that didn't have to be, that it's incredible.
Right. Every little detail. Yeah. He asked for some low fat milk as well. I like
Yes,
that's what he's going to drink on the set.
Get him a milk.
over here.
Another thing that I like, another scene that is like not one of even the main scenes, it's a small part of the cop's day, is the woman with the body in her closet, who is one of the funniest actors I've ever seen in a movie. Her performance is so incredible, where she's dragging the couch and then he's like, what the fuck is this, Marcy? And she goes, that ain't mine. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a movie.
Well,
That
it's
is
also one of
yeah.
those like she's such a weird character because she's like again one of those like when I'm saying like, other tiers of characters who are there almost to be forces of nature to bring the plot into focus, right? Like she is screaming step by step instructions of where to go to find the dead
Yeah,
body,
yeah.
right?
Don't
She
you look
says,
in my
"Don't
closet.
go in my room. Don't look in my closet." Right? She is planting these ideas
So funny.
In
in
his
his
head,
head,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She is like again like these certain characters in it. I mean, it's the same thing with the guy at the bar that Philip Seymour Hoffman spends the evening with. He's this
Oh, who
old
speaks in riddles?
flamboyant guy who speaks in riddles and says really weird things and like doesn't feel like a real character. He feels more like a dramatic irony like forced into a person, right? He is this movie is so filled with these little characters. But that's speaking of Philip Seymour Hoffman, I love like again those like really subtle things of like his whole opening montage of like getting that he's like a good probably newly converted Christian or recently reformed Christian. And
Yeah.
then like there's all these photo shots of him in the police station and he's the only cop by themselves, right?
Yeah.
All the other
No,
cops
no
have a
friends. Yeah.
partner at their desk. But even just having a partner and like how lonely he is, it is in every part of his life. It's so subtle, but like really well done filmmaking and telling you everything you need to know about this guy.
The opening of
Great.
him in the car, not the opening, it's like the early scene with him where he's driving and he's giving
In
an
monologuing.
interview about what it's like to be a cop and like what the job means to him. And then the camera
Mm.
pulls out and there's no one else in the car is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so brilliant. Okay,
Yeah, I
Anthony,
mean, his little
it's time
things
for
like
this.
when
Anthony,
he drops.
you've danced around this. Please, Anthony, just explain to me now the rap and all of the other prophet characters and like what is going, because like I said, I've seen this a lot of times, did not know that part.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I haven't seen this movie in a long time, and watching it this time, I was just kind of like taken back by like this. So this obviously there's like this theme of the movie of the idea of like as the book says, you may be through with the past, but the past ain't through with you, and the way like we are. But if you try to run away from your trauma, deny who you were, deny like what, and like not embrace the bad things that have happened to you, people who do that usually are doing it because they feel like, well, I want to be able to like just control things in my life now. And this movie is about like taking characters like this, characters who like have some trauma or currently going through a trauma, who are trying to control their lives, and the movie is saying like, no, you don't have any controls of it. And that's what the frogs are at the end, right? It's like this force of nature, this thing no one could have done anything about. Life happens to you like that, right? So you have like all these sort of main characters who are obviously dealing with like a trauma and need to learn a lesson. And then you have these secondary characters in this movie, like Philip Seymour Hoffman, who doesn't have anything like that in this movie, right? You have Dixon, who doesn't have anything like that in this movie. You have like the producer, who doesn't have anything like that in this movie. So you have like the main tier characters who are going to learn something tonight, right? They're going to learn something about how they little control they have and how that's not necessarily a bad thing, and you need to embrace and like learn to accept when crazy things happen to you. And then
Yeah.
you have like these other tier of characters, like I was saying. Oh, what were you saying, Hunter? I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, they remind me of the characters from like David Lynch movies, to be honest. Those like weird
Yeah.
characters that just know things they shouldn't, and feels like there's like this tier of characters that have read the script.
Yes,
essentially.
exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
that's how that.
Yeah, and like, I mean, that's why the scene I referenced at the beginning is like literally Philip Seymour Hoffman, to make the plot happen with Tom Cruise, explains it as, okay, this is what the scene in the movie is, right? That's literally like the context he uses to make the plot happen, right? And like Dixon does the same thing when there's rap, when he like says like, I literally just solved the crime. I just told you the whole story of what's going to happen. And it's like, so you have these little characters throughout this movie that are like on the periphery like that. They do seem more like they are, like I said, like Hunter said, people who had read the script, who were trying to necessitate for the characters to learn what they need to learn, or like to come through the other side and become,
Right.
maybe not better people, but happier people, or people who like learn whatever this movie is trying to teach them, which is what
Right.
I said of like the idea of like having control. That's why I like Juliana Moore. Oh my god,
I think just Julianne Moore, but
I have a really bad head cold. Julianne Moore, yeah, Julianne Moore's character. Someone who I have forgotten how wild of a performance she is at like 11
Oh, yeah.
this whole movie.
It's insane.
But even her, like I had never really thought about what the movie was trying to say with her, and it's like she like her whole thing is like she's like regretting the fact that she treated this man shitty when he was healthy, and now that he's dying, she sort of realizes she loves him, and she like tries to take her life at the end. But again, that kind of goes into this movie of like even something like that is an illusion of control. You don't really have control. She like is the character in this movie who tries to take most control of her life to literally end it, and Dixon shows up at the end, right? And
the other
gets
producer
her
tries that as
saved, like,
well, and a frog knocks the gun out of his hand.
yeah, exactly. And so it's like this idea of like even these things that are like seem very final and seem like this is me taking control of my life. You can't even really depend on that. You can't really do anything like that. All you can really do is sort of like take what life gives you and sort of like embrace the past and not run away from it.
Okay, so
It's just
these are
such
things
a
we've liked. We've talked a lot about stuff we
movie.
like about this movie. Phase 2, I want to know what stuff that you did not like or did not sit well with you on this watch. We mentioned the Tom Cruise stuff is a little different now. I obviously like John C. Reilly's cop character is very different to me now. There was something when I was younger that was like, oh, he's a terrible cop. That's cute. And now it's not cute at all. Especially when he's a terrible
Right.
cop who's very willing to get involved with people and go into their houses and does a lot
Right.
of
That first
unethical
scene.
stuff.
That first scene that we mentioned for being funny, and it is funny, but that it also has this like this thing that I think I did not see when I was like, I don't know, I think I saw this when I was like 18 the first time. Of just like, wow, he's just really going into her house, and that's pretty messed
she
up.
keeps saying you can't do this, and when I was watching it this time was the first time I was like, I don't think he can. I think she's right about this.
Okay,
I
so-
think she's totally right. He can't do that.
I maybe have a different expectation for cops, but I was like, all things considered, pretty good cop.
Okay, that's a different way you could go with it
There's
too.
a
Actually,
difference.
I would say he is incompetent in
Yes.
different ways. He is bad. He's not evil.
Largely
and
harmless.
that's my bar right now for LAPD at this
When
point.
he charges into the setting with his gun out, where he ends up losing the gun, or I guess God takes the gun away because he shouldn't have it. He doesn't seem like he's safe with it. It was not the best use of guns. That scared me.
Yeah, I mean the fact that he like one of the first things he does is drop his nightstick after banging on the door with it when he
Yeah, that
goes
was
to
really
beat her.
funny.
It's so funny. Like
It's charming because he's like nervous, but then also it's like, man, this guy should not be legally allowed to use force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the movie doesn't really. I don't think the movie really has that in it. But also, I think the movie is trying to be about him as an individual and doesn't really care about
Right. Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
the
And which
wider
it was-
place that we're taking it to.
For a lot of people, it wasn't a different time, but for probably for P.T. Anderson, for me, it was a different time. We didn't know as much about that as we do now. I will also, just to put on my bad list, the part where they all just sing Amy Mann for a verse, and it's just kind of a music video sing along.
Come on, that's
Oh,
amazing.
that part
No, I
rules.
love
That's
it.
one of the best
I
sequences.
like
in the whole
diegetic
movie.
music.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys.
Yeah. I
You
went with it.
guys.
Come
Yeah.
on, you just gotta go with it at that
was
point.
that
You
was the
didn't-
part where it went too far. I was with them for so many things.
Oh, I
So
love
also,
that.
like, all the lines are fairly prophetic for them. It's like, it's not just like this is a fun thing. This is like, these are all, every line the character says is very relevant for
Yeah,
what's
and-
happening for them.
Well, I have a question for you, Alex. Do you believe that sequence is literal? Like, do you think that's actually
I
happening
No,
in
no,
the
I just
reality
think it's
of this
corny.
movie? Right?
There's plenty of unreality of a movie that's corny.
Mm.
Yeah, I can understand someone not. I mean, it's not necessarily about being confused as to what's happening. It's more
Yeah.
like, I mean, I like if someone walked in on me watching Magnolia at that
Yeah.
specific part,
Yeah.
I bet I would feel like, oh yeah, this is pretty lame,
It'd
huh?
be a little
But
confused, a little
if I'm
cringy.
watching the movie, yeah, I understand that. I understand that reading of it. I just know that for me, when I'm there and I'm in this movie, and what that happens at like hour 2 with some change, even
Yeah.
you basically watch like a whole normal movie length amount of movie
Yeah.
that I'm just kind of like, yep, I'm going with it. I'm in it at this point, so they can
Yeah,
definitely
this is
get
not the
away
place
with
where I'm
that.
turning back.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
I'm not going
also
to turn around now so that they're singing.
I
I
didn't turn
almost
around. It's
appreciate
just
the
the one
swing
part
at
where I'm
that
like,
moment.
come on.
see.
God, come on.
Isn't there also a thing though where it's been 23 years and like Amy Mann's "Get Wise Up" or whatever that song is called? It's like
Mhm.
that song was written for this movie, correct?
Right.
Like that
Oh,
was
I don't know.
this is the first
Well,
time
there was a combination where
anyone
like
had heard that song.
he said he wrote an entire movie based on an album of hers, but then
Yeah,
she
her
wrote
previous
original
album.
songs for this movie, and so I don't quite understand the
Yeah.
give and take
No,
of all of
Wise
that.
Up. Wise Up
So
predates. Wise Up is before this. It was originally for the Jerry Maguire soundtrack, actually, but became
okay.
better known for that. So there was other stuff I think that she did original, but like yeah, there's a line also that Claudia has. That's
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
from
now that
Amy
we've
Man.
met,
So,
is it okay
right?
if we never see each
Yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
ever again? That he said was like he
Yeah.
worked backwards from that to a character, and it is one of the few lines I think that stands out to me in the movie where it was like, that doesn't quite work in the dialogue you wrote, but
Yeah.
I felt like you were
See,
quoting something.
there's a lot of stuff I really love about this movie. The entire date is probably my favorite sequence, and it's why Punch Drunk Love is like one of my top 2 or 3 favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie, because it's like that. It's like the date sequence stretched out to a full movie, right? With Adam
Mhm.
Sandler
I haven't
in it.
actually
Like
seen that one, but I
there's a
like
lot
so
of the
much of his
same energy.
stuff. I bet I would like it.
It's really good. I think you would like it a lot. But like the way like the camera does that fast push in when they finally stand up the kiss,
Yeah.
it's like one of my favorite shots in
Yeah.
movie history. Just like the lighting, the way the scene builds. It's just
Is there anything
so
you did not like about this
it's
movie, Anthony?
electrifying. Um, I think Julianne Moore's performance in retrospect, watching it now, is a little silly. A little not silly, but a little over the top, especially
Hmm.
with like her plot line and the character she's meeting. I think it works in the movie. Um, yeah, I don't know, like sort of rewatching
That's an
this.
interesting one for me because I think she's brilliant, and I think she's brilliant in most of it. There are a couple of moments. There are certain like writers where there are sentences that sound a little bit writerly, and it is everything
Mm,
in this movie is so natural. But there's a couple of her lines that sound a little writerly, and that don't like
Yeah.
trip out of her daily speech. It sounds quite right to me. But a thing that I hadn't really cared as much about in earlier watches that I was watching this time was when she goes to get the prescriptions filled for her husband. Just the small looks, and then
yeah,
the microaggressions from the guy, and I obviously like I knew that was happening. I've seen the scene, but the way that would affect somebody in her position, and like how that when she says you have the gall to call me lady, which is like not the worst thing anyone's ever said to you.
mm,
It's over the top, but I guess I get it. I feel it. So this is I think hers is like on the edge of being so over the top that I can't. Tom Cruise is over the top too, and I liked it. And I feel like she was
yeah.
maybe closer to the line where it could maybe push over, but
Well, I mean, Tom
Hunter, was there anything
Cruise's
for you that
character
didn't quite
is
work?
I think that I was trying to describe the movie to my roommate after it was over, and one thing that I said that I felt like it was true, but then after I said it, I was sort of like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe that is actually kind of a problem." Was that Magnolia feels like the drama equivalent of like heavy metal, because everyone is just like soloing and doing like
mm,
every scene just feels like every actor in it is just like kind of doing like a really intense exercise every scene, and it's so
Yeah.
many scenes like that, and so many of them are stacked right next to each other that maybe there isn't a point there is a point in the movie where it's almost a little too loud, and I think maybe it could have used a little nuance in the like ups and downs, because like I said, there's this whole hour in the middle where it's just
Yeah.
like rising and rising and rising.
Click,
And suddenly it's like all payoff. And after a while, maybe it's a little bit too much where you get kind of numbed out to like how much, and it's not, none of it's like I would say individually like excessive for me, but possibly cumulatively, it might be a little bit too much. I think I would have appreciated a little more,
How great would there have been if there had been a storyline where it just all went great for one character at the whole time?
Yeah, that kind of that would be really funny, Like,
Donnie
I would
gets
like
his
that.
braces. The hot bartender is like, I got braces too. I mean, that, by the way, I have not seen this movie in a long time. That's like the thing I had forgotten the most of. But when they reveal the reason why that's his plan to pick up the hot bartender.
Yeah, that's wild.
So funny.
It's so funny.
Absurd.
It's so wonderful. And of the lines of this movie that I quote frequently still, like 2 decades later, a decade and a half later, a lot of them come from him. I have a lot of love to give is something that I still say fairly often. It's just his performance is so good. And I love William H. Macy. He's just so wonderful in this. And the other thing he says that I still say all the time is, I used to be smart, but now I'm just stupid. I love that line, and it's been very useful in my life as a former GT kid, now suboptimal adult, like a remedial
well, you also
adult.
got struck by lightning, right?
And it hurts. It goes through your body. Oh, he's so fun. I love him. I love him so much. Actually, I do also one of the things that I think that cracks me up about it on this watch that I hadn't really thought of before. This is not a criticism. This is just one of my fun tangents that you guys all love so much, where it seems like I don't get it, but I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about ideas that come from it. This game show.
It's all right. We trust you. Go for it.
This game show is so wild, you guys. What do kids know? Where it's 3 kids against 3 adults. If the kids don't win, this show is mean. Right? When the kids win, it's like, wow, that's so incredible. If the kids don't win, you're like, you just brought in a bunch of 6th graders to have them lose at a game show against full-grown adults?
Wow.
What a monster.
Wow.
Well, I also like Luis Guzman, character in this. I was like, you know what? I would love to humiliate some young kids on TV.
I will destroy you guys. Yo, it's over. That's the rules, man.
He wasn't even playing for charity either, I don't think, as far as we know. He wanted that money.
$2,500 split 3 ways.
And the questions are so absurd. We only see like 3 or 4 of them that get asked in the actual movie, but like the idea of like, oh yeah, my favorite segment when they have musicians come on and play songs in the styles of other people.
They played
with
one
weird
song,
instruments,
but in the style of different classical composers, but all played on a harmonica trio, including one guy playing what looks like a 40-pound bass harmonica. That would be insane on a game show. And then other questions are like, what's the common element between carbon and diamonds?
Yeah.
It's just wildly different.
You get bonus points for singing an answer.
Oh, I love that.
What?
So my favorite game show, and it's from a listener who sent it to us, but originally is why I listened to it when we watched the quiz show episode. But I love Only Connect, this BBC game show, and the host, who is brilliant, she won't give you bonus points because she can't. But if you mention a song, she's going to ask you to sing it, and then she's going to tell you did a great job because she just loves when they sing. And so it reminded me of that. But yeah, the idea that you get 250 bonus points if you sing the aria from Carbon is hilarious.
Oh my God.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's great.
But just imagine how the show was if the kids don't win 3 days in a row. Everyone would be done. They would be like, well, yeah, they're kids, you asshole.
Right.
Well, imagine the idea that the show is like, this kids team clearly a little imbalanced.
Yeah.
Seems to be literally one person answering every question, and the other 2 make fun of him for pissing his pants. That's their
so
job.
the casting on the show is very important. They're like, it's a game show where we make one genius kid beat 3 adults, and we put 2 dumb kids next to him. So we have to cast adults that are dumber than this kid, and then we put him with 2 dumb kids. So it's really just ask this freak kid questions, and yet they don't treat him particularly well for him being the only reason the show works.
This had good background. I think they want to pull in some like historical stuff. So one, I kind of think P.T. Anderson's dad produced video shows, and I think also
dad was
he
a
worked
TV producer. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and
his
he
dad.
worked on a quiz show also, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the character of Earl, Tom Cruise's dad, is loosely based off when Paul Thomas Anderson's dad died of cancer, right? It
Wait, you're
is.
telling me that
This.
this movie about a series of shitty fathers is a connection to his own dad?
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, just
It's hard to
sort of
believe.
going through. Yeah.
It's tough, I know, but yeah, there might be something going on there, you know.
This is the part of the podcast where we reveal that actually. Also, I think that Fiona Apple had some version of that have to go to the bathroom, and the TV producer isn't letting her story. I think that also I saw that in the IMDb trivia. So
I believe that.
Yeah.
Well, IMDb
I mean,
trivia,
that's
as we all
another-
know, is the place you go to put lies. But that I believe that anyway.
But good lies.
people thumbed it up,
believable
so-
lies.
Yeah.
But go ahead,
That-
Anthony.
Being able to use the bathroom thing is such another good, like, very subtle way the movie drives home this theme about, like, control, right? Like, so much of Stanley's life, like everyone else, is like he's literally being told when he can't use the restroom. But the thing is, like, water goes in, water comes out. Like, people shouldn't be surprised by what happens, right?
Yeah,
But it's like
yeah.
this sense of like, oh no, you cannot do that. And it's like the adults and everyone else is so surprised when it happens, but it's just like this idea of like, yeah, shit, we know certain things are going to happen if you do not allow, a kid to pee. But like the
All right,
fact that
so-
people are surprised and upset when it happens, it's interesting. I love it.
I'll add one more brief thing on what didn't work as well for me, which is that there are just not a lot of women in P.T. Anderson movies, and the two that we have scream the whole movie. The three that we see for any length of time are all screamers. A lot of screaming, not as much character depth from the women. But let's wrap. So that's like part two. Part three of this review process. How much it factor did this movie have for you? So what are the other intangible things about this? How intangible was your interest in this movie? Ezra, do you want to start?
I got mad it factor. Just in that, like, I forgot how much of this really must have affected me when I saw it. I guess the first time I had seen it for the last like 2 decades.
Yeah.
But especially like, I mean, I on Napster I had all of these all the soundtrack MP3s from Amy Man. I very much remember this, and like the last couple of days also like found myself like singing bits of these songs. So like it felt like it was a lot of the stuff I really remembered, and there's some like shots. I don't know. It's tough not to have an it factor when you have like so many good people with so many names. I feel like there's just so many names for the people, and they
middle names, middle initials. Yeah.
If you're acting with a middle initial or middle name, you're not leaving anything for the swim back.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a movie that like it's got me thinking a lot about. We talk a lot about how much I like Tom Cruise. I'm a big fan of his work as an actor, as a performer. I love a lot of the stuff he's done over the last 20 years. But when you think back to like this period of his career, between like coming off Jerry Maguire, doing this, doing Eyes Wide Shut, still doing the big action movies on the side of it. But like there was a time that like he definitely kind of hit a branch in the path and decided to go fully towards this sort of like stunt man. I'm only in movies I produce, I oversee the writer and the director, and I am the auteur of my own movies, right? Like that's certainly what he's been on for the last 15 years or so. But yeah, I did kind of I watched this and like Eyes Wide Shut, and I kind of wish that he had maybe gone more with the I work with interesting directors and I will do whatever they want me to do.
And
because he is
give
so
110%.
good. Yeah, when you look at like this and Eyes Wide Shut, it's just like these are the last two movies that Tom Cruise was not the sole producer on, right? Like I don't think he's done anything since these movies in which he wasn't the sole voice at the end of the day. And that's kind of.
I agree with that. I agree with what Ezra said about like the different ways that it affected. Like this is not a movie I hadn't put this on my top 5 favorite movies, and I just have been like realizing how much I watched it and how much I thought about different parts of it. And one of those is I want to tell you a quick story where I threw up in the same bathroom as William H. Macy does in this movie. because I was
Did you
hanging
go
with a
there
group
to
of
do that?
what?
Did you go there to do that the way like
No,
people go to
that was
New
not, it was not
Zealand and
originally
see
the idea.
the
So I
Lord of the
was
Rings sets?
in LA. I was doing a bunch of shows, and the comic was like, "Oh, a bunch of us are going to hang out," and they all live up in the valley. And they were like, "Oh, we're going to go to the we always go hang out at the Magnolia bar." And I had watched the movie a ton of times and knew nothing about LA, so I did not realize all of these locations are on one street called Magnolia, which makes perfect sense. But I did not know that. And so we go to that bar, and I had eaten a very sketchy LA donut a couple hours earlier, and I started feeling
a donut can make you throw up.
I am pretty sure I got food poisoning. I think it was a donut. That was the most suspect thing I'd eaten all day.
I mean, look, I guess I gotta say, keep on going for the story, but usually it's more than a few hours before. I guess I'll say that.
Well, that's
actually
very plausible. That makes perfect sense. That was the weirdest thing I ate, and the thing that I was like, this is a mistake. But I had anyway. I got food poisoning, and I had to throw up while I was in that bar. And it was I do not remember, because I felt really crappy, if the bathroom was that same bathroom or if that was a different set. But that was the thing that I have in common with William H. Macy is getting sick and having to throw up in that bar, which to me is a huge intangible.
Well, no, you also, spent a lot of money to get your kids in the colleges they didn't deserve. So you have that in common with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
The other thing about this, this is not related to anything really, but I'm going to force into this portion of the conversation, which is, of all the little things about this movie that really work so well for me, one of them is the weight of the frogs. So the prop, there's some CG frogs, but there's also a lot of prop frogs, and there are so many
rubber frogs, I think.
Yeah, there's so many things about them that are so good. One of them is that they're just way heavier than I would have thought. But they're really good sounds. When the one comes through the skylight is perfect. And just when they hit the car, it's like startling and intense. And the way the cloud of frogs moves in, like a rain cloud coming across, it's not like a tornado through these frogs. It's like clouds raining frogs. The frogs are so well done. And there's one frog, the one that knocks the gun away. We're on a drone shot, I guess, above it's CG, but we're with the frog for most of the way down, which is great. I just really enjoy the frog.
It was a GoPro strapped to a rubber frog that they dropped out. That's what happened.
It's so good, and I love it. And also, frogs are my favorite plague of Egypt. I think I don't know if I spent a lot of time thinking about the plagues of Egypt the last couple of years, and it's so good because they open with River of Blood, right? Which is
strong opener.
Strong open.
Brilliant opener. It's so terrifying. The smell, like the viscosity of it, it would be so upsetting. It's so scary, and there's no way you can follow that. And it has the feel in the story where he like turns the rivers to blood, and then you're like, well, surely Pharaoh will let me go. I've done my plague, and then Pharaoh says no. And to me, it reads like Moses was like, what I meant was 10 plagues. I have many, many plagues you haven't even thought of yet. It's not just that one. That would have been ridiculous. I have so many more plagues. And then he looks around and he sees a frog and is like, there's going to be more frogs than you expect. And then it has to want. So that's one option.
I mean, it's a 1-2 punch, right? Because like frogs, I mean, blood is going to destabilize you, gross you out. It's causes a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Frogs, it's just such a what? I mean, you can see Pharaoh like Philip Seymour Hoffman going, "Why are frogs falling from the sky?" Right? I mean, it's a good line for a reason.
Yes,
because it's a shocking image, right? It's
very
so what
weird. I think you can't follow River of Blood with a more metal plague. The only way you can go is weird. I think frogs have the most I control stuff that that you can't even fathom. What else? Get in here.
Well, so look, I'm really into the plagues, every Passover, they're very, very interesting stuff, and they are legit weird. I want to make one clarification. I think you're overselling some parts of this in that it's really weird if you go to the text that it's actually Pharaoh is legit freaked out by this, and then God is like, I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart again because I got 9 more bangers that I need to, guys. I've brainstormed all night to have all the great ones, and I need a reaction to every single one. So hold on. No, this is not going to work quite yet. I want you to see every single thing I've planned.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And this is actually one of my favorite parts of this text is that God is definitely on both sides. God is like, he
Oh,
does
yeah.
a thing and it works
his
so well.
side.
He's like, well, come on, we got to play out the string.
Well, I mean, God, like Paul Thomas Anderson, is a storyteller, right? Like the thing is, it's not like God was aware. God, he thinks long term, right? When the Exodus was happening, he wasn't. He was thinking, yeah, this is gonna make a change for them today. But what's important is my legacy. How are a
Yes.
bunch of dudes on a podcast going to be analyzing
Yes.
my work 5,000 years from now?
Right.
You know, he's a visionary. He
Well,
sees the pieces.
So here's the problem with that theory. I'm mostly with you, but and I'm mostly with you, Ezra, too. That this is like he had 10, he had to get out, but a couple of them do feel like filler. Like there's
Yeah.
like
Which
flies
one?
and gnats, which is like a little much, and like
Yeah, that's literally a technicality. I mean,
Yeah.
like a lot of those flies could have been gnats, and a lot
yeah,
of those
exactly.
gnats
I
could have been
wasn't checking
flies,
their
you know?
undercarriages to know the difference. Or I think the worst one is when he blacked out the sun for a period of time, because that just happens.
Yeah, that's just called night,
It's just
bro.
beautiful. It's just
Yeah.
a normal, awesome thing. We love. Do you know how many people traveled to see the solar eclipse recently? Like, it's amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's true.
oh no. The worst one is fire rain, because fire rain sounds like the best one. It sounds super badass, but if you think about it, you're like, well, what's on fire? The rain is on fire, like an Adele song, or is it like sulfur that's falling that's on fire, or is the fire itself falling without being on something? Doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I looked it up, and it turns out a lot of translations of that just say hail. That the fire rain and hail are basically like the same words. So it wasn't fire rain, it was ice rain, which is the opposite, and is also just a thing that happens. So like,
Well, yeah, a lot of this is
Well, I
branding.
mean, how often does it happen
exactly.
in Egypt?
I think
You
fire
know what
rain
I
is
mean?
definitely the best branding on hail I've ever heard, but it's just not that
Well, also,
Yeah,
impressive.
that's good. No,
Like,
that's
so
good
look-
spin. I mean, that's good spin. Fox News could learn
Mhm.
something. You know?
Locust, same thing. So locusts are just angry grasshoppers, but
Yeah,
angry grasshoppers
exactly.
doesn't sound as good as locusts.
no, it's
Yeah,
true.
locust sounds like
Hopping sounds
evil.
super cute.
Yeah, mean. I have a plague of mean grasshoppers.
Just the meanest, just real bad SOBs. These grasshoppers.
Or
they're
maybe
hungry.
you frame it like they're Yeah, that's what I was about to say. A plague of
Hungry
hungry grasshoppers. These grasshoppers are starving.
They
They've
got the
been left in
munchies.
the
Oh,
bin all
man.
day.
All right. The last thing I wanted, so normally in the 4-step process, we'd ask, what would you change? But I think we've talked a lot about the movie. I have one more unrelated question, or glancingly related, and then we got to rank this movie. So this question is for anybody on the table who has more experience at cool parties than me, because I've never been in a situation where I would know this answer. But this also came up in White Lotus, and I genuinely don't know, so I want to ask. How much cocaine is much? Because it seemed to me
Yeah, I don't.
like she was going through a
Wrong
lot.
person asked.
I don't want to answer this question.
I can say I don't look. I don't know. It seemed like a good amount. I don't want to gloss over the what would I change, because I know what it would be.
Okay,
I
what would
want
you change?
the frogs to be every hour on the hour.
It's just like the leftovers, which is like a thing that happens. No one cares. It affects
Right.
us, but we just don't explain it. It's just
Yeah,
every
no,
hour
it's
there's a
just- that's
frog
the
rain,
thing
we
that
just deal with
happens
it.
in this part of the valley. It's just we get frog o'clock every hour on the hour.
It is like 10 degrees
Yeah, I
higher
would
than
like
the
it
rest of
too.
LA. So like if it was also frog o'clock on the hour, it would make sense to me.
I would
I
like
mean,
it
that
too
is-
if all the characters didn't even think it was weird and didn't even comment on it, and were just like, it was a movie where what if in the valley it rained frogs every hour, and then people just live their lives with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I mean, it is definitely like, I mean, again, that's something I had never really thought about before this movie. Watching it this time was sort of like why he picked the title codes for the weather throughout the movie. Right?
Mm.
It's that like illusion of control and being able to like understand things that we really can't. Right? It's every time he shows you a title code of the weather, it cuts to the weather being the opposite of what it
Right.
just
I didn't
said.
realize
Right?
that.
You know, like
Oh.
it is like it's just like this really interesting. Like this movie really does feel like such a text, and not just the sense that it's like very long and big, but there's there's so much like meat on their bones, right? I mean, and it's as for like things we don't sort of like about it, with like a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson stuff. Like I said, his women are great. He makes movies about a whole wide range of rich white people, right? But that's really kind of where he draws his thing, like he doesn't
Here's
have a
also
lot
that
of diversity.
I liked large portions of Licorice Pizza, but the age thing was weird and they didn't care. And then also there's this really racist character that is just not commented on. And so every once in a while he does a thing where I'm like, Paul, what? But then like Tom Waits jumps over something on fire on a golf course in the valley, and it's like the best thing I've ever seen. So he really does have a lot of strengths, but every once in a while there's like a weird blind spot.
Yeah. I mean, just
agree.
deep stable of actors.
Yeah, he's just obviously very much like a very insulated sort of artist.
Okay, I'm not going to let this pass though. I need help, Anthony. No one else is helping me. Is her like how on a scale of 1 to like super emergency? How much cocaine did she do?
She definitely does a lot of cocaine in this movie. That is for sure.
It's a lot. Okay.
The question. Well, the thing is, though, it's like, obviously, I don't think she's like new to cocaine.
No,
you build up a tolerance.
Like maybe she needs it to get through the day.
And I think as somebody who's never used cocaine, I think you maybe have a misunderstanding of how cocaine works, Alex. It's not like other drugs where like if you smoke weed or something, I mean, it is in the sense like you will be high for a while and then you eventually come down. Cocaine is like that in very short spurts. So like you will get high on cocaine and you will stay that way for a while. But like you need to there's a reason why people who are doing cocaine are constantly doing it. You need that constant source if you want to maintain your high, especially if you have a drug addiction, which she certainly seems to.
Yeah.
You're going to constantly.
So it's like alcohol, where your body can process 1 drink per hour. You can like process one cocaine every 20 minutes.
One cocaine per hour. Yeah, one cocaine.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you when you do cocaine, it's not like like smoking pot or something. You're like you might like come back to the bong every once in a while, but like if you're at like a cocaine party when everyone's doing cocaine, you're gonna be doing a lot of it throughout the evening to maintain your high because you're going to come down off it.
Yeah, because she doesn't do that much at any one time, but she does do it constantly. The lady in White Lotus that I was really worried about, she is an older woman, Jennifer Coolidge, and she does like, I don't know, 4 or 5 cocaines in a row. And I thought that seemed like a lot for a person who doesn't do this very often, but I have no idea.
Well, she's an old pro,
Yeah,
I mean,
she said it'd been like 20 years since she'd done it.
Yeah, well, but she remembers, how to do it right.
I'd be worried about her heart popping, right?
Yeah, but I think there's like cheat codes and stuff. I mean, I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like, you have to. The thing you have to understand.
I think you hold your ear down, and then that makes it different.
She like chopped up the cocaine with a Game Shark, and then it's okay.
Well, and the thing. I haven't seen the episode of White Lotus you're referring to yet, but like the thing with like all drugs like this is you have to remember like the drugs normal people get and the drugs rich people get are 2 very different drugs, even if it has the same name. That if you are rich and you're getting really good cocaine,
right,
the effects on it aren't going to be like if you would buy off the street or from a sketchy dealer
because
that has been stepped on and cut with a bunch of.
Alex, like your cocaine wouldn't be like the good stuff that Jennifer Coolidge is doing.
It was like Bradley Cooper's Limitless drug at the end of Limitless, right? Yeah. It's just like it actually only makes you better.
That's rich people cocaine.
I mean, it's
I'm not a cocaine aficionado, so would I notice? Would it like taste worse? Or would it just be like, definitely there's some... not... Okay, yeah. But there'd be more poison.
The high would be different. Yeah, and you would feel worse the next day, or you would feel worse that evening, or I mean, it's like the thing with like Keith Richards when he talks about like when people are like, how did you do so many drugs and you're alive and healthy? He always says like, look, I wasn't doing the drugs your friends do. I was Keith Richards. I got the highest quality heroin and cocaine you could possibly get.
Right.
I got when I think of a picture of health, I think of Keith Richards. That is a
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
for a
yeah.
man that age who's done that many drugs, he's an incredible.
It's
thing.
true.
Yeah,
He's
actually,
That's
it's been
because
quite a run for that guy.
that is because
he's going for 100% completion. Keith Richards,
Yeah.
in his run.
Okay,
Yeah,
we do have to move on. We have to
he
move
has
on. This has been
done,
great.
you know,
We've talked about this too much now. I appreciate the insight though, because I really was just confused and just want to understand. But now that we've covered our 4-point review process, it is time to rank this movie in the master list of quality. Where does Magnolia fall on the list of the 40 best movies of 2022? Why do you say
that's tough? I don't know. Well, I just don't. I hadn't thought. I forgot about this part.
yeah.
And the second you bring it up, I'm like, oh, geez. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
Somewhere.
feel okay. Well, I think I need 1 to 10.
Okay,
Yeah,
1
me
to
too.
10 in order. Actually, we'll go 10 to 1. Virgin Suicides is our
Ooh.
current 10th. Then Good, Bad, Ugly, Hero, Cuckoo's Nest, Iron Giant, Eternal Sunshine, Lion King, Mononoke, Edge of Tomorrow is number 2, and The Third Man is number 1. Where do we put
Edge of
Magnolia?
Tomorrow is the. I forgot our list is.
I
Just
love this
insane.
so much. That
Our list is so crazy.
We all really liked Edge of Tomorrow, Hunter. It's reasonable.
And we also-
Good movie.
I didn't
couldn't
like
go
it that much.
above it.
It got in some sort of pocket where it didn't have to
Yeah.
defend itself anymore or something.
Well,
I don't
do you
know
think,
what happened.
so you're
with
saying you
that.
think Edge of Tomorrow is not as good as Magnolia? So you would put Magnolia
Yeah, you know
second.
what? But the thing is, the whole thing is topsy turvy for me. It's so far from anything. I think it's because there's 4 of us, obviously. But
Well, so one thing that we
I'm
do
going to say number
on-
2.
on this show, we've always done averages, but on your podcast, you guys have to agree, right?
Yeah. It's unanimous. We can't if we get stuck, we just have to keep arguing until somebody
Well, I
gets
know
tired.
Anthony
wear
hates
each other
that, but
down.
let's try that. Let's all have to agree on a position for this movie just one time. Let's see what happens. I'm curious.
All right. Well, then, so what we do on OGA will be stuff like meta stuff. Like I'm gonna say, I think we should put it number 2.
Yeah,
because
sure. Negotiate.
screw Edge of Tomorrow. I think Edge of Tomorrow needs to be we need to take a little bit of the gas out of that movie. I mean, otherwise people are gonna think that's we might ruin Edge of Tomorrow.
Look,
That's what I'm saying.
If we do a re-rank at the end, I'm fine with that. But
Yeah, we can also
The
do a re-rank. I
only
think would be fair.
thing. Wait, are you saying the only thing that could knock off a Tom Cruise movie is a better Tom Cruise movie? 'Cause I like that argument.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I can get behind that.
Just to put our cards on the table, I'm not trying to move the Overton window like you are, Hunter, but I think 2 is a reasonable ranking. I would not argue if
It's
you guys
pretty
wanted
good.
to put this 2. I would not fight with you, and I'm surprised by that, and I am a little worried that maybe this is insular because I've seen it so many times, and that the rest of the world's like, what are these dudes talking about? But I really do think this movie is incredible.
Alex, come
I
on.
mean, what are these dudes talking about? Because
Magnolia.
Edge of Tomorrow is number 2 on the list. What are these dudes talking about?
I mean,
a
I
pretty
think The
fair
Lion King is
response.
close to a perfect movie, and I liked Princess Mononoke a lot, but I feel like this is easily in the top 5 for me, and 2 is not out of the question.
Oh, here's the thing. Wouldn't you all agree that Magnolia would be better if Tom Cruise had killed an alien in the middle of it?
If Tom Cruise was like,
Magnolia
I don't
had
want
been
these
better-
frogs falling, and started blasting them out of the sky as they came down.
Right.
Or if Tom Cruise had drop kicked that dog.
Yeah.
I mean, like he promised
No,
he was
I
going
didn't
to
say
do.
this, but my one change, if I was changing something, would be that the dog lives at the end, because it didn't need to die. Poor guy.
It's true.
But no, the thing
Yeah.
is, the dog, it's a metaphor for him. It is what he leaves. His dad's body and the dog leave together. He is the dog.
So
He is
There
a
is no
changed
dog, Alex. The
So he's
dogs
the man
are
now,
in your
dog?
mind.
He's a good person.
He's the dog now, man.
What? He's not a good person, but he's somebody who's willing to change and real his whole thing during the interview, right? He is the one who is the most expressing what everyone else is trying to do, which is fuck the past. I don't think about it. If you worry about the past, you're a loser. It's the stuff all these sort of Andrew Tates of the world talk about now. People who and at the end, he's willing to look inward, address what he is. He becomes the scared 14-year-old boy he actually is at the end. And now he can grow from there, right? I do think of all the characters, he is the one.
You've convinced me. The
coming
dog
out the
needed to
most
go.
the next day.
Yeah, we had to get rid of that dog,
Yeah,
Alex.
to
I
go.
I'm
mean,
fine now. You're right.
Hey,
You're right. You got me. All right, and I'm gonna argue for number one now.
Whoa,
Oh,
you're
shit.
arguing for number one over Third Man?
Nah, not really. I can't. I think Third Man's still better, but this has got. This is my number two. So, Anthony, where do you come down on this?
Yeah, I was gonna go higher on the list. But I like this movie. I haven't seen it in a long time. It probably wouldn't be this high on my personal list. But if this is what you guys want to do, I'm down. I think it's a good place, and I like having these two Tom Cruise movies back to back because I think
think
you
that's
really
If you
get
were
a
gonna put it
range of the
somewhere
man.
though, where would you have put it? Where would you? How far down would it have fallen for you?
I mean, I would not have been that far because, like you said, we have that kind of good, really high quality animation chunk, and then you kind of get into like Hero, Good, Bad, and the Ugly, One Flew of the Cuckoo's Nest, and I think this movie kind of like sits well in that group of like very important epics that are like really like maybe not the type of movie, not the most like rewatchable. I think like Edge of Tomorrow or even like The Third Man are movies that you can like. They're pretty breezy. They're propulsive. They're fun. You can kind of put them on and just watch them and appreciate them. But yeah, they sort of like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Hero. This, I mean, I guess Hero's pretty short, but like these movies that are like very long, very very rich, very dense with stuff. I think it's a good place to sort of put them there. But yeah, if you guys want to do two, I think Magnolia would be awesome there. So
Ezra?
I'm with
What do
you.
you think?
I mean, that's my range basically. It's like between 2 and I think 6, where it's like I think it's I wouldn't put it below Cuckoo's Nest. And I would, for a push, I guess I would put it above Edge of Tomorrow, but I'd rather it be below it. But I'm okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, would 3 make it? If 3 would make everybody happy, it's closer to Anthony's, and you think it'd be better off. But Hunter was the one you lost your mind about it being behind Edge of Tomorrow.
It is.
Well, yeah. But there's no fix. We're not, we can't fix that right now. You know what I mean? Regardless of where Magnolia goes, it's either 2 or 3, and I think either on the full list now is pretty ridiculous.
Is it the better Tom Cruise movie? I guess.
I mean, I think Magnolia is definitely the better Tom Cruise movie.
All right, I feel like we've come close enough to 2 that we just got to give it to 2. No one's mad about 2, and I think
I want to make an argument for why it's a better Tom Cruise movie. It's because of the stuff that Anthony was saying before,
the long hair,
about how it used to be that it used to be that Tom Cruise was like an instrument to be used by directors in their films in an interesting and unique way. And then Tom Cruise became his own industry. Yeah, work together with. Yeah. I don't need to use. I mean, I was kind of having fun with describing it that way, but just because it's Tom Cruise. Yeah, I think then after this, Tom Cruise became his own industry, and while there's definitely some boons to that, it's we kind of there's a road less traveled there that we didn't get to see. We still got to see some stuff after this though, because he worked with Michael Mann on that. What was that movie?
Collateral.
Heat.
Yeah,
no,
not
Collateral.
Heat. He's not in Heat. He could be. It'd be cool if he was in Heat.
Someone
should edit him into Heat.
Yeah, I meant the other one.
But Collateral, yes.
Collateral.
A few interesting, and like, look, again, I'm a big fan of Tom Cruise. He's not a great actor, but he's probably your best movie star, right? He is like one of the best performers of his generation. But yeah, I mean, like, and I do think like the language as Hunter was using of like when he talked about working with Stanley Kubrick on Eyes Wide Shut, it was, I am an instrument, I am a tool, I will be whatever you want me to be. And I think that was like a good experience for him, but it also was something he was like, I don't ever want to do that again. I want to be in complete control of my images and my movies.
Just like the Iron Giant, he doesn't want to be a tool anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Eyes Wide Shut started filming years before this and came out the same year as this, because that was like the longest production in the history of movies up until that point. And I think it still might be. It's the longest film shoot of all time. Is Eyes Wide Shut.
Wait, what about Boyhood?
Well, I mean, this is concurrent.
Okay,
like
fair enough.
Eyes Wide Shut was like 2 years of constant filming for that movie. It was insane. The amount of work that went into that film.
Well, it's nice to have
it was, I think the question here is which Tom Cruise do we like better? And I think I like this Tom Cruise better
Me too.
than the
Me
one.
too.
I like them
Yeah.
both
yeah.
though. I
Yeah.
don't dislike one.
All
but
right.
it's
Yeah,
like,
this and Eyes Wide Shut are his two best performances.
We're calling Magnolia
Yeah.
the
By a
second
considerable
greatest
margin.
movie of all time. Now we have to move into our game business. So I told you the thing that we agreed on, or that Anthony said last week, but you guys have all decided you don't like
tape.
that.
No,
pulled-
you
no, I
burned
pulled up the
both your codes last week, Alex.
No, you
don't have a
specifically
code to
said we
burn
went
this week.
back to the point. I only played my card in response to your card, and you said you didn't play that card.
Okay, so first there was a Alex is like said, so I have the suspended power card, and I'm like, yes, we've gone back. And Hunter said, we've let's say, how about this? Let's say the house rule, you played it the right way, which would have been to play first a card saying no, I'm suspending the rule that other people can play power cards, and then you play the switch card. And you say, so smart. I wish I'd done it that way.
But I didn't agree that we had done it that way. And what you had said was, the first part of that description was, I get my card back, yes. Right?
No. And then you say, so I have no cards left. But Anthony still has his 2 fuck you cards.
Yes.
Yes. That is what we agreed on. Yeah.
That does not sound like what we agreed on.
Alex, we all 3 of us were immediately remembered this way.
And Alex, I wasn't going to fight you on this. I'm sick. I didn't want to do this again. I was not going to play any power codes. But now I feel like you're forcing me. I feel like
No.
I was not going to do anything. I was going to apologize for last week. And then I was going to say, yeah, let's just do what the plan was. I'm totally cool watching The Prestige. And then you pull this bullshit for no reason.
I'm just not bullshit. This is the thing you told me. You told me this. This was what you guys said was happening. You don't get both your cards if I only play the card later.
I think you secretly want to watch Avatar. That's the only thing
I
can think of. It's because
but that does get us to an interesting point, which is Jeff on YouTube pointed out. I don't have this queued up, so I can't play it. But back in the Battleship Potemkin era, we all agreed that at the end of the game, we would watch all the remaining unmatched picks.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know that we're still going to do that. Who wants to do that?
I don't want to see Cinderella.
Ezra's going to watch Cinderella for some time, which I think is great.
Yo, hold up. So, am I in the tie, or am I the one not in the tie?
I'm the one not in the tie.
You are in the tie.
I'm in the tie.
Ezra's not in the tie.
And we had a rule. We had a rule that was if you pick a holiday movie, you get a point.
Yes.
Did we not have that rule?
We did have that rule.
Okay. Is Eyes Wide Shut a holiday movie? Because
absolutely.
Okay.
Eyes Wide Shut is
if
absolutely
Eyes Wide Shut is a holiday movie, then I select Eyes Wide Shut and I will win this game by 1 point.
So just to be clear, the way this game is going to end is that everyone will have betrayed me and I still look like the bad guy. Just to be clear.
Yes.
No, you
absolutely
are playing a different you're the one who made this all weird.
It wasn't our deal was that I was gonna win anyways. Like that's what our deal was.
Wait, our deal was that I was gonna win? You guys were gonna give me the points?
And
well, I pretty much have told everyone
and then you said you were gonna abandon that plan and then make Ezra the winner.
Well, yeah, I pretty much I told everyone here that I was gonna make them the winner. But that was just me playing the game. Now
I would rather watch Eyes Wide Shut, and I'm not watching Avatar, so I think that's a very reasonable play.
Okay. So the compromise here is I win by 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
By going to Eyes Wide Shut through the cruise missile. We end on a Tom Cruise Christmas film, Eyes Wide Shut, which I actually have never seen the end of this movie.
It's very,
very
good.
I've never seen any of it. It's in the. I mean, it does seem fair to get Cruise in here a third time since he's already 2 of the top 3 movies.
Yeah. I do want to entertain this, though. It will be my point to do as I choose. I might take it myself, or I could cause Anthony or Alex to win instead.
Or you could give it to me, and you just keep the 3-way tie.
And we just keep, or would it make it a 4-way tie? Probably not.
Yeah, well, no, I think I have 18, so I think I'd still be out.
Yes, you'd be in a more respectable 4th place.
Yes. We'll see what I decide to do with this final point. I'm not saying I'm for sure going to keep it myself. But yeah, I think that is the compromise at this point, is Eyes Wide Shut.
All right.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
We're watching Eyes Wide Shut for the final movie of season 5.
Oh, yeah.
I would suggest that perhaps we do one more episode after the holidays for season 5, a season 5 wrap. And then as our last order of business, we would try to construct a different list of quality and see if we get somewhere else
like
with
that.
agreement.
Re-rank the list. I'm gonna do my own version of the list. And then that'll make me happy.
Maybe we could just all bring our own versions of the list and see what we could do with those.
Yeah.
That might be fun.
It's helpful.
I'm into that.
Yeah.
I think that we should just do a season
Cool.
wrap, and then we do have some exciting news about the following, what's going to happen after season 5, and we will talk about that in the coming weeks. But for now, we're traveling through Tom Cruise to Eyes Wide Shut from 1999. Another
Little
big year of
fun
movies
fact.
for us.
I've been working a lot of late nights, so my wife has been watching a lot of movies she hasn't seen. And over the last 3 weeks, she has watched Magnolia and Eyes Wide Shut. So she's watching both these movies for a second time within about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
That's very dedicated.
So that's going to be very fun for her. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to do that next week. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We'll be back in next week with Eyes Wide Shut and the final full episode of season 5. If you have any feedback on this episode, send us an email, podcast@read-leap.com. And most episodes are on YouTube, youtube.com/AlexFalcone, although this one will not be, as you have already noticed, because of some video problems we had in my hotel room. But I'll be back in LA for the last episode. Talk to you then. Thanks for being here, Hunter.
Yeah, hey, thank you.
Thanks for being here, Ezra.
Yep.
And Anthony Lopez.
I just want to say, just for the record, I genuinely felt bad about how last week ended, but none of this was on me today. This is entirely on Alex deciding to start all of this. But we got to a movie I really have been wanting to rewatch, so I am very happy.
To be clear, what everybody
so
at
it all
home
worked
knows very well is that this was not on me. So we're all in agreement on that.
This was absolutely
This was-
on you.
Please write in.
For some
Please write
reason,
in with
even
your
including the
opinion
transcript
there.
and hearing me not agree was not enough for you to think that I did not agree to the thing that you suggested. I understand why you were confused, but I definitely said that would have been smart. I wish I'd done that, and not that's the deal. And
Yeah.
I said,
Well-
I've still got my card, and you said yes. And so just to be clear, everyone heard that.
That was
And
not
then you
on the
distracted
tape
me
at
with
all. No one
nuts
heard
and
that.
fruit is what happened. Everybody agrees.
And
Everybody
I
agrees.
guess just somehow the three of us were all on the same page, and that was just,
You were
I don't know.
because you were on the same page ganging up on me before that, where you were all like, hey, I know you played this card, but we all just don't want that to happen.
Well, luckily we found a way out that doesn't, everything is preserved,
Just to be clear, I'm hosting the show. You don't get the last word. I'm going to say the last thing. It's going to be me. And if you say, Anthony, if you're
All
like, hey, I get the last word right before you turn it off, I'll record a bonus on my own. I don't give a shit. I'm going to fit this in this MP3. People are going to know that I am aggrieved, that I am the player who has been the most wronged, that all of this happened because 2 of my friends lied to my face. That's what happened.
I don't know. This is like the opposite of Magnolia. Like, you're not letting the past be the past and learning anything from it. And you're, like, making things worse for the present. So, I mean, you need to get some rained on by frogs. You need to learn some lessons, Alex.
I would take some fire rain if it was available. I would also take locusts because they sound like cute little caterpillars. All right, we'll talk to everybody next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Last word.